Welcome back, everyone. My God, it is the third day of King Charles's visit to the United States. He is here in New York City, where he's going to 9/11 Memorial. He's got a British ambassador gig, blah, blah, blah. And it is also, look at this. This is the sweetest thing ever. It is William and Catherine's 15th anniversary. I do. I love it. Look at that photo. Come on. That is so sweet. It's lovely. It's amazing. It gives you all the feels, right? It's like 15 years. They're happy. They got a beautiful family. And of course, not to be outdone, the wayward lambs of Montecito. They're giving us yet another chapter in the days of our Montecito lives. And they worked with People magazine, aka their mouthpiece, to come up with this hefty cover today. My God, making their own rules, these rebels. What a bag of dicks. Ducks. You know what I mean. I mean, things like this, you guys have to understand, this is not just something you slap up. All right. This is something that they worked with People magazine for a bit. And they knew the date it was going to come out. Now, they very wisely were like, hey, we're going to leave daddy alone while he's dealing with President Trump and not make waves. But the second daddy goes to New York City on the day of William and Catherine's anniversary, guess what? Boom, drop it. And they did. Now, this was fascinating to me because here we go. It reads, 6 years ago, wait, hold on, let me get this up. 6 years on, wait, no, sorry, that belief still shapes their path. Unannounced visit to Ukraine, some inside the palace circles that overlap. They're talking about, hold on, wait. In Australia, where the king's father, Harry's father, King Charles, is head of state, the Sussexes spent 4 days in April this month, moving through engagements that echoed an official royal tour, from hospital visits to moments of remembrance, while also embracing the independent income-generating model that now underpins their work. For some inside palace circles, that overlap remains deeply contentious. They are pushing the envelope and making it much more difficult for reconciliation to happen, says Sally Bettle-Smith, author of the Royals Extra Substack. In Ukraine, Harry stepped into territory traditionally avoided by the royals. Speaking of the Kyiv Security Forum, he called for American leadership, bite me, Harry, in the ongoing war, a remark that carried clear political weight. The moment comes just days before the moment came just before King Charles's state visit to the U.S., a tightly choreographed trip that sources say left no room for any private meeting between father and son. Wink, wink. While Harry emphasized that he was speaking not as a politician, but as a soldier and humanitarian, the remarks were striking. Together, the two trips illustrate the space the Sussexes now occupy. Outside the boundaries the institution has long sought to maintain. The monarchy is meant to be above politics and commercial imperatives, says Valentine Lowe, author of Courtiers. This is exactly what the late Queen wanted to do. This is exactly what the late Queen wanted to avoid, insists the source close to Harry. This idea that he's against the wishes of the Queen by being half in, half out is nonsense. None of this is being done in the name of the institution. We're going to get to that in a minute with my pal Sykesy, but let's go on, because this literally, I can't begin to tell you how much of a banger this article was, because again, it was done with Harry and Meghan's agreement. And so here we go. And this is my favorite. The royals are influencers, but the mystique is that they are not promoting themselves as such, says Beth Ann Holt, fashion director of The Telegraph. Side note, a very friendly place to the two. Meghan is lifting the veil. Adds Bettle-Smith, it was shocking to see her go to the hospital and then sell the clothes she was wearing. I've never seen anybody in the royal family do that. I can't imagine it went down well with the palace. Truth. Thank you, Sally Bettle-Smith, for that. For critics, it raises a broader question about where public service and personal branding begins. Yet those close to the couple back on that characterization. They're not reliant on Harry's father or taxpayer-funded money, said an insider. They pay their own bills and make their own money while continuing to support a lot of causes that might otherwise go unseen. It enables them to do what they love doing. Oh, God. Another source said, they're trying to live their life, raise their children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, do meaningful work, and earn a living. Palace insiders say it's more likely to deepen tensions with the royal family. It won't help Harry's case or promote good relations, said Queen Elizabeth's former press secretary, Ailsa Anderson. For Prince William, the issue is especially firm. What Harry and Meghan are doing is a non-negotiable for William, Anderson said. He wouldn't countenance any acceptance of it. Oh my God. This is those close to the Sussexes saying they describe a more measured reality behind the scenes. Meghan lets Harry lead on all royal matters and dictate what needs to happen. Notice this is a pushback to everyone saying she wears the pants, because she does. But it would never put them at odds. They're on the same team. Says another source, it remains very emotional. Harry and Meghan are both realistic. They're not approaching it with the expectation of a quick resolution. It's about taking small, manageable steps and seeing where things land. This remains very important to Harry, with Meghan supportive. They both have tight-knit circles. Harry, according to People magazine, has friends. That is not actually quite true outside of his bodyguards. Meghan, of course, they point out, has friends, loyalty runs deep, blah, blah, blah. It's a side of Meghan that's overlooked. Blah, blah, blah. They're just going in on this. Her resilience is hard won. They both try to focus on staying as positive as possible. They wake up every day focused on being the best parents they can be. No matter what comes at them, they pick themselves up and keep moving forward. Oh my God, grab me a sick bag. Hold on. Ooh, this is crazy. I do love how People magazine says, while reports of high staff turnover have raised questions about the couple's working environment, others who remain describe a different experience. And by others, they mean one other, the nanny who's been there for 5 years and now is assistant. There are quite a few of us who have been here a long time, says one 6-year staffer, AKA the nanny/assistant. Much of her company is made up of young women, and she really champions them. She's always said to me, just speak up. That's one of her biggest things. Side note, speak up as long as she agrees, okay? Getting back to the final banger paragraph, those close to the couple believe their trip to Australia set a new blueprint. This is very important. The late Queen herself once recognized the positive effect Harry and Meghan could have across the Commonwealth, and supporters say their influence has not disappeared. They're very aware of the impact their presence can have, said the longtime staffer, AKA nanny/Liam/James Holt. Walter adds, a lot is forgiven when you're on the ground and you show up and do good work. That magic and allure of a royal doesn't necessarily come down to a title. May not come down to a title, but you'll notice they keep theirs. They grab onto it with their fingers clenched. Now I'm going to bring in my brother from another mother, Tom Sykes. Hello, Tom. Where are you, friend? Because I know you're in New York, but you ain't here with me.
I'm in New York City. I'm at Tea and Sympathy. There can be no more British establishment, I think, than Tea and Sympathy in the West Village on Greenwich Avenue. It's delightful to be here. A very famous institution. 36 years, I think it's been here, established by Sean and Nikki, now run by their daughter Audrey. So it's great to be here. And yeah, what a graveyard. Do you know what really struck me about it, Paula? It was like
wait,
the writer, and
hold on, Tom. before we get into it, I need to give you a mea culpa. All right. And this is my mea culpa to you. And then we're going to get into that article and the BS of that article, because when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. All right. And I just want to say it. This is from yesterday. Just one hot day ago, 24 hours. No, I don't like doing this. Hold on. But, I'm going to tip a hat. Kudos to Harry and Meghan for STFUing during this trip so far.
Yeah, well, let's hope they stay that way, because I thought what Harry did in the run-up to the trip, I thought was absolutely unforgivable. I thought it was actually cruel, and I thought it was just a really mean and shitty thing, actually, to do to your dad 3 days before he's going off on the most important diplomatic mission of his life. You know, so it's been in the works, in the planning for like well over a year.
Yeah.
For Harry just to turn up and go, oh, well, yeah, I don't think America's doing enough. You know, it's like with his like 2-bit Polytechnic cafe analysis of like global events. I'm like, please spare me, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought it was, you know, like we won't get in. It's King Charles's day. He's having a fantastic day, and I don't want to get into it, but I do think that ultimately Charles is going to have to say something.
There we go, Tom. You were right. You knew he was going to say something. I was trying to be positive, man, but now this freaking banger. And I want you to talk about the last 2 paragraphs of the People magazine article where they're saying Australia set a new blueprint and the late Queen once recognized that they could have a positive effect and that they're going to basically keep doing this and F you to the king.
I mean, it's kind of hilarious because I feel in a sense as a journalist we've all been in this position, right? Where you've got to try and square a circle in your writing. So the piece keeps contradicting itself, is what's so interesting, and you can see the journalistic instinct of Simon Perry, who is actually, you know, a decent journalist, trying to come in and quote these contrary voices. They were very clearly saying, whether it's Sally Bell Smith or Valentine Lowe or Elsa Anderson, all 3 very good sources, all saying, this is nonsense, this is rubbish, this is not what was agreed, this is a complete betrayal of what was set up by the Queen, and et cetera, et cetera. But then trying to get these voices in from their side, which is obviously the price of having access, which, you know, as journalists, we all understand, like we have to, you know, get our sources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you can feel the tension within the piece, I think very accurately reflects the idiocy of their whole position, which is we don't want to be in the royal family, but we do want to be in the royal family. We hate the royal family, but we want to keep our titles. The royal family are a bunch of terrible racists who kicked us all under the curb and betrayed our privacy. Yet I'm giving details about William being circumcised. I mean, it's, you know, it's just it completely cuts to all of the contradictions and all of the hypocrisies completely implicit in this project. And the idea that the Queen somehow gave her blessing, I mean, the Queen did not give it. She said, do not do this. And she said, if you must do it, don't do it in my name. And they are basically doing it in her name.
I mean, it is insanity. It's literally, I can't think of a bigger middle finger right now. The timing, the wording, everything. It blew my mind. It's so petty and childlike and ridiculous. And I just first of all, I want to say Christine Gilbert, 1848, thank you so much, as well as Tracy B06, thank you as well. I just can't believe it. Everything in this article.
I wonder if you could take me off the screen for a moment.
Okay, you got it.
Because I actually can't hear you. So I just need to adjust something on my settings. Could you just take me off the screen and keep talking, hold on. And I'll let you know.
So here's the deal about this article, and it's just shocking. Number one, it's insanely childlike. It is like 2 little children waiting. Like, we did good. We didn't say anything for 2 whole days. Give us a pat on the back, and now boom, here's the stinking bag of dog shit in a paper bag landing on your doorstep, already lit with matches and kerosene. I mean, it's such a nasty thing to do for your father, who is here on a diplomatic mission. Then for, you know, is that better, Tom?
Yes,
It's such a nasty thing to do to his father. It's also such a nasty, nasty thing to do to his brother on the day of his brother's anniversary. It's a loving time. And also to say, hey, bro, hey, William, Catherine, we're coming for you, because it's not going to stop. As they mentioned in the People magazine article via friends, wink, and via longtime staffers, of which I know they have 3, the nanny, James Holt, and Liam Delia. And I can't with them. What was your biggest takeaway, Tom?
I think that what I found so extraordinary about this is that 6 years later, he's still so consumed by his resentment for his brother, his resentment for his father, that a method has to be found. You know, this in Sussex land, right? This is the ultimate, because not only have they stolen the spotlight away from William and Catherine on their wedding anniversary day, they've also chucked another bag of spanners into the King's Royal Tour. And, you know, this has been the moment that the King has finally stepped into his destiny. There's been 50 years of carping about Prince Charles. Oh, he's an idiot. He talks to trees. He knits his own yogurt. No, he's not. He's wonderful. You know, he's ahead of the game. Like blah 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 blah. And but you know, finally, King Charles turns up. He makes this incredible diplomatic statement. You know, he goes in. He has the balls to, you know, say, as he sees it, you know, what's going on. Standing ovations from both sides of Congress. And this is Harry's response. I mean, it's just so pathetic. And I think the thing that I really find so strange about it is, like, have your disagreements with your family, have your disagreements with your brother, have all the arguments that they want. But you really need 7 years later to keep trying to throw them under the bus. I mean, they just look so vindictive and weak and foolish. And, like, do we really believe any of this? Does anyone really believe this? Like, this line that was all a great success in Australia. I mean, look at the Roy Morgan poll. You know, Roy Morgan is not like some made up bullshit pollster. It's like an incredible, proper polling organization. The only good factor out of that was that 80% of people knew that they were there. But 80% of the people who knew they were there, it didn't improve their opinion of them. They didn't think that they were treated unfairly. It didn't improve anything. They didn't, you know, them going there and talking about how hard done they were by, we don't want to be royals, but we want to be royals. People are just like, no one cares, man. No one cares.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. I also want to get your thoughts on this. Well, you just said this, but I want to get your thoughts on what they exactly mean. So sorry. Let me get back to this. Those close to the couple believe that their trip to Australia set a new blueprint the Queen herself once recognized. Oh, wait, no, we've already done that. Sorry, guys. I was looking for another one, and I think Tom popped off the screen. Oh, dear. You know what? This is what happens when you go to a cafe, and we love a cafe, but man, those cafes. Here he is again. All right, Tom, I wanted your exact thought on this bit, okay? After years of distance, strained by Harry's legal battle over security and the fallout from his memoir, Spare, there's been some renewed contact between him and his father in recent months. WTF does that mean? Though they haven't met in person since September. And his brother, meanwhile, brother William is over it. They're done. And then it goes on to say that those close to the Sussexes, however, describe a more measured reality behind the scenes, that he and Meghan are just on the same page, that Meghan lets him lead on all royal matters and dictate what needs to happen. Tom, what do you think about Harry letting it slip that he's in contact with Charles behind the scenes, and also that Meghan lets him take the lead on certain things. What does that make you think of?
Well, they've been briefing forever to anybody who will listen that he's in regular contact with the king, is how it's sometimes put. So I don't know why suddenly this piece is now claiming that this is a recent development. Either they were lying then or they're lying now. But to be honest, I don't know how frequently Harry phones his father, but I understand that they do have contact. But this thing that was said before, regular contact. I'm reminded of my one of my distant uncle's funerals at the church. That the vicar said, and of course, John was a regular attender at church. He came every Christmas. So regular doesn't mean a huge amount necessarily. And I think that it's just appalling that they're trying to pretend that they are back in with Charles and that everything's good and that Charles is over it and Charles wants to be in touch and blah, blah, blah. I think it's just, I find the whole thing so objectionable, but the timing is just unbelievable. I mean, look, I'm in New York, as you are. Charles is due here today. 9/11 memorial. It's going to be an incredibly somber and powerful moment. He has this gala later on today. This is it. This is what he's been working his whole life for. And I'm just like, dude, can't you give the guy like 72 hours? It's not a huge amount to ask. And all right, I just want to tell you, for some reason, when you start, for some reason, then I can't hear. So if that happens again, I'll just leave and rejoin. Just ignore
No
me.
worries. So the other thing is, when you talk about timing, and you're right, they could have waited just one day until Charles was in Virginia, the day after William's anniversary. Just let William and Catherine have one thing without trying to overshadow everything they do. It's just so crass. And you wonder who raised them. Oh, wait, we know. But what the hell? It's just, if they had waited one day, you and I would not be as fuming. It would not be so tacky. But obviously, this piece was in the works for a while. Obviously, they have say on when it comes out. And yay, they waited while Charles was with the president. But today is just as important, not only for Charles, but for William and Catherine. Of course, this is, in my mind, this entire article and this cover was laying down the gauntlet to William. What do you think of that?
Oh, it totally is. I mean, it totally is. I mean, look, it's going to be an absolute SH1D show this summer when they go to Birmingham. We're going to be having, extraordinary scenes if Meghan really is going to join Harry, if the kids really are going to join them. It's going to be immense pressure on Charles to meet the family. I'm sure Charles would love to meet his grandkids, but he's just terrified that it's going to be commercialized and weaponized and used against him. But yeah, this is totally them throwing down the gauntlet. They're basically saying, screw you, Dad. We're going to do what we like. You can't stop us. We are no longer subject to your control. We are not dependent on you for money. We are not dependent on you for publicity. We are not dependent on you for your networks. And we are going to do whatever you want, whatever we want. And I think that there is also that. Look, I think that potentially, you could say that William and Catherine maybe could have also waited a day or two before releasing that photograph, because I think it is distracting for the King's visit. And there used to be a very good rule in royal circles that you didn't do anything that overshadowed the other guy on a royal tour. And discipline has collapsed in the palace since the reign of King Charles. And I think that actually, I think William and Catherine were very annoyed that Charles upstaged their visit to Saudi Arabia when he made these comments about Andrew. And I think it does speak to there being some tension in the palace. But I think at the end of the day, William and Catherine are the salvation of the royal family, right? They're still part of the royal family. So it's not quite as egregious as this thing in People, which is basically saying, screw you.
Well, also, I can't imagine that William and Catherine it is their anniversary day. They knew
Yeah.
that King Charles and Camilla would be here, and I can't imagine that they wouldn't have run it by somebody, run it up the flagpole at one of the poles at the palace. I mean, you and I can agree to disagree on that one, but you know, I think that they probably got an okay since it's their 15th anniversary. All right.
They were very, very annoyed about the Saudi Arabia thing. They were incredibly annoyed about it.
And by the way, as they should be, but also you know, I do think that it wasn't, how do I put this? It wasn't like on a big day. Do you know what I mean? Like if it had been the king's birthday, they would have done it. And in fact, the king put the trip over their anniversary. So I get it though. I hear your point and I totally understand. I do want to get into kind of the weakness of Charles. He did give that great speech. We both loved it. I teared up. Embarrassingly so, but it was one of those things where you're like, okay, you did a great job, and now you're back to dithering because WTF, your weakness. And yeah, I get the point that Harry and Meghan are saying we're not funded by you, we need to do this, but they are kind of getting very desperate. I actually feel like all of this tit for tat and the barrage of publicity that they are trying to get almost every single day since the year started it kind of smacks of desperation, really. And then, of course, Meghan doesn't care because for many reasons, but of course, she's been told by Angela Pearl, her astrologer, that, you know, it's okay. She's coming out of a 7-year stint. I'm going to pull this up in a second. She's coming out of a 7-year stint of where the planets weren't aligned. But now, Leos, it's your time. And people can see the real you. And I was laughing my ass off because all I could think was, well, then who was the effing real you the last 7 years? I'm pretty sure you were pretty transparent and authentic about your inauthenticity. What say you, Thomas?
I think that it's clear that the couple are very desperate now. It was interesting. I was talking to somebody the other day, actually, who lived not far from them in Montecito. And they said to me that they are a laughing stock because, like, this, you know, the house is like so shit that they live in. So basically, look, if you go and buy a $14 million house in Montecito, the first thing you do is you remodel it, right? Or really, ideally, you pull it down, right, and build a new one on the spot. They haven't done any work inside the house. It's still decorated exactly as it was by the sort of shady Russian billionaire who had it before. Their expenses are huge. We saw even strangely, Dan Wakeford, you know, once one of their great cheerleaders at People magazine, saying that they're in financial trouble, saying that nothing's worked. And I think you're right. I think it is an absolute state of not desperation. I think it's a state of emergency because right now, what money is being spent? The capital. And anybody can tell you the moment you start spending your capital, you are in big trouble. You know, your capital needs to be put in investments, it needs to earn you income, and you know that's how the world works. If you are spending your capital, you have got massive financial problems.
Yeah, I agree. And also, you know, so I have a story coming out on Thursday. What day is today? Wednesday? Tomorrow on News Nation and my Substack about how well her stuff sold on One-Off on that AI shopping platform. And basically about 6 items sold out. But of the 6 items, 4 were not recent items. They were from a 2023 or 2024 collection, meaning there are probably only 30 to 40 items to begin with. So while she seems to think, and also BT Dubs, if you crunch the numbers, off the Australia trip, off the sales of her clothing that's sold out, she might have gotten 10 to 15 grand. Now, let's add in, let's be generous, 50 grand for the speaking engagement. Let's add in 50 grand for Harry's. I mean, they're not even clearing 200 grand from that Australia trip. Now, I get that it was all free for them, you know, they've flown down, they get free hotels, they get free security, they get free blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, it's not that great. Not even 200 grand. And your polls are in the toilet when you leave. How is this sustainable? And as you and I both know, 200 grand doesn't even cover their monthly security bill, much less keep the lights on.
No, I mean, it really doesn't. And, you know, at this stage, Meghan's earning power is that of any other mid-level influencer. You know, it from the outside, for somebody who just had a normal life, you know, living in a apartment in New York City, it would be great to be earning $200,000 a month. Fantastic. But, you know, if you are who they are and you have made the commitments that they have made, you've made these grand sweeping statements that they have made, like, these guys need to be earning a couple of $1 million a year to live the life that they want to live. And you know, it's completely desperate. It's very, very sad. It's absolutely it's pathetic, really. And now they're just selling off. I mean, when you reach the stage where you're selling photographs, come and have a selfie with me for $1,000. I mean, it is so pathetic. And I think, as Sally Bedell Smith says in that People interview, she's quoted by Simon Perry, and as I say, Simon Perry, decent chat, you know what I mean? He's just trying to
measure
keep
it.
the lights on himself as well. But you know, and you can see I always, as a journalist myself, it's funny when you read these papers and you can see that they've been briefed to do one thing, which is write this incredibly sympathetic article about Harry and Meghan, but they're trying to stand up for themselves and put in the fucking truth. Sorry, excuse me, put in the truth.
It's funny that you say that, because the same thing happened at Harper's Bazaar when she was on the cover, right? With her no makeup look, and just
that
trying to really be like,
writer, because she was, I've forgotten her name, but she's a Pulitzer Prize winner. Or no, she the book award. She won one of the massive book awards, and she was obviously told, go and write this sympathetic piece, and she just thought, you know what? Screw you, I'm not going to. And so she put in these devastating details about, you know, Meghan seeking to be announced as the Duchess of Sussex, like empty rooms and all this kind of stuff. And in fact, that, of course, that Harper's Bazaar piece was an absolutely brilliant piece of writing, because it was so cleverly disguised that at the first reading, you could believe that this was a sympathetic piece, but the more you read it, the more devastating it became, the more damning it became of them. This isn't quite in that field at all, but it's very interesting that he has quoted these other voices saying the diametric opposite of the argument that he's trying to make in his own piece.
100%. But the other thing is,
I feel for you, Simon.
The other thing is, you know, I had a conversation with Rachel Maxwell, who's on YouTube as Rachel the Pilot and Rachel Co-Pilot. You guys, you're going to scream at me for getting the name wrong, but it's been a long morning. I've been up since 5. Morning TV. Yay. Rachel and I were talking about the Invictus Games and the sincerely dodgy finances of Invictus. And it does seem that Harry and Meghan at this point, because Meghan is always showing up at Invictus, kind of sucking the air out of the room, and Harry is using it to burnish as his PR wagon and to burnish his long ago credentials. Yet at the same time, the actual grants to soldiers are minimal as they bring in millions and tens of millions from local governments. And how do you think that the Invictus is going to play out? Do we have to wait for something like Sentabali, where someone inside Invictus says, I'm fed up. This is, hold on, I'm going to go to the Charity Commission. I mean, we already saw how in Tom Bower's book, Tom had said Harry is sweeping the games of anyone who disagrees with him on the upper levels, and that 2 major executives who wouldn't toe the line were booted. And, you know, he kind of got like a bootlicker after. What do you think about the Invictus Games?
I think exactly the same thing's going to happen. And I think it's probably going to happen. You know, I think probably there's so many people working for it who are such wonderful people and so devoted to the cause that my impression of people that I have spoken to who are connected is that everybody just wants to get through to the next games, which are not in July. July is 1 year to go. The actual games are the following year. And I think there is a huge effort by everybody to toe the line, to not have any public split, to not damage the cause before those games, because the games are so tenuous now. They've not been a box office success without any royal endorsement. They are struggling. And so I think that but I think that the people who are involved in it are so committed to the cause that I think there's a very much a definite effort for nobody to break ranks before the actual games happen in about 14 months time. But after
Let me add
the games
myself to
take
the
place,
stage.
all
Sorry.
hell will break loose.
Yes, it's funny because I did write a big story for News Nation about how it's already in disarray, that the Invictus Games in Birmingham to be held in a year are a huge problem. They only have 11 corporate sponsors. That's down from 40 in Whistler and Vancouver. And they also have massive staff turnover. You know, one person I spoke to who she's in marketing, and they were contacted, and they were, you know, by a headhunting firm. The headhunting firm wouldn't say who it was for. And the person said, I'm not going any forward or listening to anything until I know who it's for, because my reputation depends on who I work with and vice versa. So they said it was, she said enough that she said, is it for the Invictus Games and Prince Harry? And they said, yes. And she said, I'm out. We're done. I don't even want to go anywhere near this because it's just it's too dirty, you know, and it's got such a bad reputation. And also the fact that just recently they had a bunch of job postings up on LinkedIn for positions that should have been filled 2 years ago. Also, there's no local office for Birmingham, unlike Dusseldorf, unlike Australia coming up, unlike Vancouver, unlike any of the other games, which all had local offices. This one is not, and it's all being run out of London. And there just seems to be a constant reorg, and it's really, really disconcerting. So, you know, we'll see. And I know he's going this summer, and the reason why he's going this summer is manifold. He and Meghan are desperate to once again be seen as within the royal fold, because all of their ventures in the United States, especially, but in the Commonwealth, they really hinge on the fact that of their titles, and that Harry is of the blood, as he likes to call it, a prince, despite his acting not so princely lately. But that's one reason they need to go. Number two, they desperately want to meet up with Charles because they desperately want a photo to release to the media to really imprint on people and say, boom, here you go. Look at this. We're back in. They also want to do it as another middle finger to William, who's patiently waiting because he knows this is his inevitable role, his lifestyle, his life, and this is what's going to have to happen. So that's why they're going, for those reasons, but they're also going because Harry needs to drum up business. He needs the coinage because Birmingham is running short right now. They've only got around $22 million pledged, and that's from the government. Usually what happens in these games, the government does half, and private, individual, and corporate donors make up the other half. Now, private donors are not pulling out their pockets right now because too many questions are being asked. And also, again, they only have minimal corporate sponsorship right now. So Harry needs to go over, grease the palms, and do everything that he has always said he hated, at least according to the texts that were done on Stand, where he said, I had to, you know, like to Charlotte, the royal reporter at the Daily Mail long ago after they had that moment. And he was doing texts like, I had to go and do all this stuff. I wish Tom was back on, but, you know, bad Wi-Fi. He would know the exact words. But he hates doing this, but now he has to go back to it, right? I mean, the only thing he really likes when he talks about a job, that's great. if you were in the offices 8 hours a day working your ass off like everyone else is, cool, I'm down with that. He's not. His job in his mind is to show up a couple of times a year, press the flesh, play with some kids, and have a great time, all on a 5-star dime that somebody else pays for. And you know what? I call baloney. And by baloney, I think you really know what I mean. And it's going to be interesting. Unfortunately, Tom's Wi-Fi at Tea and Sympathy has bonked out. So I'm going to say goodbye for Tom. But I also wanted to say thank you guys so much. I really appreciate y'all turning in. And if I didn't get to your comments, I'm sorry. I will get to them after if you put it up later, because I can't see the live comments because I'm not real sure how to do that yet. And remember, subscribe to the channel so that every time I go live, boop, you'll get an alert. Like, subscribe. We love you. Thank you. I so appreciate you. All right. Take care. Have a great day. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Come on. You know some nonsense is going to happen.